Hi, this is Rich Gall, Rogue Sniper Paintball.com. Today's July 1st, 2010, and this is June's update.
I started off the month by buying my battery. This deep cycle marine battery will give me plenty of power, and the engine's charging system should keep it topped off. I got ahead of myself while building and forgot to take pictures, so here's the battery tray. I bolted it into place and added a strap to secure the battery. On to the rear tow hooks. I've been putting these off due to the amount of work needed to build them, but I got to the point where they had to be done. I cut 6 pieces of 1/4 inch flat bar, shaped them, and drilled out the holes. I then welded 2 sets together. After making the frame mount, I welded the double set to it. Using a piece of 1 inch square tube as a spacer, I welded the third piece to the rest of the mount, and then welded the entire mount to the frame. I also welded on a couple of stops for the gear reduction bearing blocks. To get the drive chain to align into the chain guard, I had to make a bracket and mount an idler sprocket. That should be the end of the welding on the back end. I took the frame outside and gave it a coat of paint. Once dry, I mounted a second idler sprocket for the upper chain guard. On to the transmission. I spent 3 hours measuring, then double and triple checked my measurements to make sure everything was right on. Turns out my original measurements were right. Oh well, can't be too careful. I then mounted the reduction sprocket, bearings, and drive shaft, and ran the drive chain. I also welded the chain guard back into place. No more tripping over that thing in the shop anymore. I had trouble aligning the rear idler sprockets. I put this off due to the fact that I didn't have the right bolts at the time. Upon removing the lower idler sprocket mount, I realized the mount was bent during the chain test fit. I straightened it and reinforced it. I also welded together 2 pieces of 1/4 inch flat bar to reinforce the upper idler sprocket mount, as well as reduce the need for so many washers. Once I make a second trip to the store, I can permanently mount both idlers. On to the front end. After locating the center between the forward and reverse pulleys, I drilled a hole in both front supports. I then drilled a hole in 2 brackets, aligned them using a piece of 3/4 inch tube, and welded the brackets into place. Using a 3/4 inch tube, I cut pieces that fit into the brackets and then welded them into place. This will be the outer pivot point for the idler control arms. They will pivot on a piece of 5/8 inch steel rod. The arms will be made of 1 inch square tube and will connect to the control handles by a control rod. My gas tank came yesterday. It's a 6.5 gallon North Star plastic tank. It's the biggest tank I could find that would fit into the frame. It would be my main tank, with the engine's tank being a reserve. I have a bag full of these empty drink mix containers. I've been saving them so I can use them in the tank project. I'm using a piece of 2.5 inch conduit to simulate the tank's drive shaft. This will go over the chain guard and will hide the wiring. To prevent the wires from rubbing or getting pinched under the chain guard, I cut and shaped the drink mix container to make a wireway on either side of the chain guard. I also plan on using the drink mix containers for ammo storage later in the project.
I've been saying it for 2 months, but by next month's update I will be finishing the lower hull and be onto the electrical system. I received my tach and speedometer this month, so I will be able to start building my instrument panel. The only major component I'm waiting for is my fuel sending unit. This year's Invasion of Normandy scenario paintball game at Skirmish USA will be held from the 16th to the 18th of this month. I hope to see some of you down there. I have a lot of work to get ready for the game, but luckily the game falls in the middle of my vacation. I hope everyone has a happy 4th of July, and I'll see you at next month's update.